Welcome to another edition of Fourth and Pain, the only football and pro wrestling show to be hosted by an NFL player and a weight loss champion. With me, as always, is Redskins defensive end Adam Carriker.
I've got the largest arms on the D-line. He lost 260 pounds, makes him the weight loss champion, and we are collectively, as a group, Fourth and Pain, the it factor of professional broadcasting.
I like where this is going, man. You know what? I feel like in another few shows, maybe 6 months down the line, you and I are going to have a legit tag team formed here. We are taking over the broadcast ranks. We're coming for you.
I'll be the heavy muscle, the good looks, and you can be the high flyer and the mouthpiece. How's that sound?
Damn straight, man. I am the Mexican Roger Guiz of Fourth and Pain. Former wrestling announcer, weight loss champion Chuck Carroll here. New shows tweeted out each and every weekday, 1 p.m. Eastern at Fourth and Pain on Twitter. Be sure you are following that. Adam, this here is the wrestling segment to get things going this week, and let's do a little bit of departure. You know, so often we focus on things in the WWE, but today I kind of want to focus in on the competitor on Thursday night, Spike TV, a little bit of Impact Wrestling, of which that I know you are a huge fan.
I'm a huge fan. I watch it every week. I enjoy the actual content as much as I do the WWE. We can debate. In fact, we probably will debate next week. We had talked about it, whether TNA will ever be able to compete with WWE, what they can do, and if they're actually as good or better, even though they're not as popular or profitable.
Well, we're talking about comparing and contrasting WWE and TNA. Well, one of the angles from WWE and before that WCW was NWO. And currently in TNA, we see aces and eights. And there are a lot of similarities between the two. Coincidence that Eric Bischoff was there for runs in both companies? I don't think so. I want to spend a little bit of time, though, talking about whether Aces and Eights has run its course in TNA, much like the NWO did in WCW.
I think it's absolutely run its course. I'm done with it. I'm tired of it. It was interesting. It was good at first. I don't think it ever compared to the NWO. I don't think it ever will because I think it's done. I don't think it ever did. It was exciting for a while. I think what made the NWO work was they had guys like Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Macho Man Randy Savage. You can go on and on down the list. The Big Show. He was the giant at the time. Aces and Eights has Bully Ray and Mr. Anderson. Other than that, it's Eric Bischoff's kid. It's the Briscoe. I don't even know his first name. It was a couple of big guys that aren't in the group anymore. Doc and the guy who used to be Chuck Knox. I never knew his name as part of Aces and Eights. That aren't even in the group anymore. I actually like D'Lo Brown being in the group, even though he was a bit older, a bit heavier. I love the promos that he cut. I think it's done. I think it's run its course. I don't think it was ever as good, even though it was exciting in the beginning.
Well, then, you know, you just mentioned some of the heavy hitters. You talked about Sting, who was a member of NWO Wolfpack. Well, Sting is also a member now of the Main Event Mafia, which is that's the feud right now. Main Event Mafia versus Aces and Eights. Are we getting to a situation, are we getting to a point now with Aces and Eights in your eyes, having run its course in TNA, that Main Event Mafia will eventually be able to knock it down and just kind of put Aces and Eights out of its misery? Or is Aces and Eights going to stick around like a cockroach and soon we'll have Aces and Eights Latino, Aces and Eights Dog Pound, and whatever the hell other faction they can think of?
I don't think we're going to have any off-brands of Aces and Eights. I think TNA recognized that Aces and Eights was getting stale, and the problem was how do you get rid of a faction like that, and then how do you move on? One thing they did was they brought back Main Event Mafia, which actually makes Aces and Eights a little more exciting again, I will admit, by bringing a rival faction into this. And Main Event's Mafia, their overall goal is to make Bully Ray not the champ anymore, which they succeeded at for a short while, and to get rid of Aces and Eights. And I think they brought in Main Event Mafia to make Aces and Eights exciting and then ultimately get rid of it, and then the Main Event Mafia will disperse.
Now, one of the guys that's kind of been in Main Event Mafia of late and kind of on the fringe of this whole Main Event Aces and Eights thing, a couple of MMA guys, as a matter of fact, Rampage Jackson, Tito Ortiz. There's an influx of them right now in Impact Wrestling, and I suppose that they were brought in to kind of add legitimacy to the TNA brand because maybe WWE has Brock Lesnar, and this is TNA's way of competing against him. But you get a couple of guys in Tito Ortiz and Rampage Jackson that, to me, are a little bit past their prime. Now, coincidentally, as you tipped me off to, is just a couple of months from now, they're actually going to be squaring off in what I suppose will be an octagon in another MMA fight in a, hey, we're still relevant bout, as I put it. Good idea or bad idea? I certainly have an opinion on this.
I think it's exciting. I think it brings something new and different. I think it's a way to bring publicity and big names to TNA, where TNA is otherwise outside of Hogan and Sting and a bunch of older wrestlers. They really don't have it. The problem is Tito Ortiz is 38, Quentin Rampage Jackson is 35. Two of the best fighters ever, but Tito Ortiz, 28 and 16. A lot of those losses came late in his career, which is what people remember recently. Same thing with Rampage Jackson. He lost his last 3 fights to basically nobodies. The difference between them and Brock Lesnar, first of all, the size difference. Lesnar's a lot more imposing physically. He also won a NCAA national championship. He also he lost the UFC title just 2 fights ago. It's not like it was years ago since he held it. It's not like he's lost a bunch of fights. Yeah, well, it's not years ago, just a couple years. What I'm saying is people's recent memories of Lesnar is him with that belt. People's recent memories of Ortiz and Jackson, who are aging, is losing to guys we don't really know much about.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I think that if I had to pick the two, and I'm certainly not popping down any money for this pay-per-view, but if I had to pick between the two, just having seen Rampage Jackson's last fight and the ass beating he took, I mean, it wasn't even close. My money's on Tito Ortiz. I think that Rampage Jackson is one of those guys that's always been overhyped, and Hollywood picked him up. Remember, he was in that A-Team movie, so he's got this prestige, like his name is bigger than his actual ability. For that reason alone, I'm going with Tito Ortiz. Who do you have?
I would agree with you in this real life MMA fight. I'm going to go with Tito Ortiz basically for the same reasons you said. We hadn't talked about this before, but TNA, Ortiz has turned his back on Rampage, and they got a feud going in TNA. I doubt if it leads to a TNA match because they're going to have the MMA fight, but if they had a match in TNA, who would win that?
Oh, it'd be a schmoz, man. They got a real life fight.
No. There has to be a winner. You have to pick a winner.
Rampage Jackson, because it's fiction, just like Hollywood. So I'm giving Rampage Jackson in wrestling and Tito Ortiz in the octagon. Now let's transition here. Wanted to hit on a couple more things before we exited this segment. Bully Ray recently beat Chris Sabin to regain the TNA title. Do you think he's still going to have this when the Bound for Glory series kind of wraps up?
I think so. He's done a great job. He's come a long way from, what was his, Bubba Ray Dudley, the guy who stuttered. By the way, the best rocks ever, it doesn't matter. He comes out as Dudley, and the Rock goes, it doesn't matter what your name is. You know, I kind of butchered that, but look it up on YouTube. It's the best it doesn't matter I've ever heard. I think he's done a great job. I love watching him. I loved him before he was ever the champ. I love the whole pulling the wool over Hogan's eyes, screwing over Brooke, all that stuff. I love that storyline. It's interesting that a guy this late in his career would get such a heavy push. I think he's doing a good job. He's carried it for a long time, the belt, and he's going to carry it into Bound for Glory because that'll make the best main event versus who we're going to predict to win here in a minute.
Right. Now, you're just talking about Bully Ray. For so many years, he was part of that Dudley Boys faction or Team 3D, however it is you want to refer to them, with Devon. And now Devon, he's another one that recently exited TNA. So for really, it's only been a short time since Bully Ray has been a singles wrestler. And for him to actually have gone out and captured that gold already, I think that that's pretty impressive. And it kind of makes me wonder, Adam, what his career would have been like if he would have broken from the Dudley Boys earlier than he has, because now he's kind of in the twilight of his career. He's over like crazy right now in TNA, but is he going to be able to sustain this long term? I'm not sure about that, but I definitely think he will still have the title when the Bound for Glory series finals rolls around, which brings me to the final point, and that is, who will he face? Who is going to win the Bound for Glory series? Adam, prediction.
My prediction is not the guy I want to win. Magnus. TNA, we keep hearing how he's the future, how Dixie Carter thinks he's so good looking and he's got the physique, and they just love him there at TNA. I admit he's a talent. He's good. I don't know. I don't know that his ring skills are great. I don't know that he's that over with the crowd. I feel like he's being shoved down our throat. I don't know that his mic skills are great. I feel like he's the weakest link in the main event mafia, but they love him there. I'm going to go with Magnus, even though I'm not crazy about that idea.
All right, you know what? That's not a bad idea, but for me, I think that it's all about the sizzle and the entertainment. And for me, a guy that could make a serious splash in a statement that TNA is still a viable product is AJ Styles. Up in the air what his contract's going to be.
Right.
He comes out, re-signs the deal, goes on to win Bound for Glory series, then beats Bully Ray for the title. I can't think of a better way to kind of wrap that whole deal up, and just TNA then taking a shot at WWE, kind of beat their chest a little bit like, hey, we're still here. We're still a viable contender. Don't count your chickens just yet.
I hope you're right.
So.
I do.
All right, we're fresh out of time on this segment. Don't go anywhere. This here is Quattro and Pain. Weight loss champion Chuck Carroll here with your weight loss tip of the week. And they say an apple a day keeps the doctor away. I say nay, an apple a day keeps the pounds at bay. Studies show people who eat an apple as a snack generally consume fewer calories during large meals than those who nosh on something else. Plus, apples can actually help ward off excess belly fat, which is sometimes referred to fittingly as apple shape because of their antioxidants. So I say this, you eat an apple a day and you too can be a weight loss champion.